Greetings and salutations, friends. Welcome back to some more of the Cutters Creek Realism Park that I'm working on. And I'm going to just quickly throw in a flat ride. This little space here looks absolutely perfect. So I'm just going to flatten out the terrain, move some trees around, and then try and find a suitable flat ride. I don't want to put anything too incredible in here just yet. I want to get the people into the park, right? I want to encourage them into the depths of the park where all the fun stuff is. So we're just going to throw this down here. This is a scissor. And I'm going with the idea that this is another one of those pre-existing rides that was in the park before this very rich conglomerate purchased it. So we're going to basically put it down and add the same delicate theming around it that we did around the carousel. And then I realized that I have the railings on the paths. And I really like them, not with the hedging that I have going on. So I got rid of those. So now we're going to go ahead and put down our the theming around our path up to our ride, and it's going to be the same purple and red flowers just as before. Okay, so we're going to get those in, and I think they do add a nice touch of calm, right? To the pathway. Not overly entertaining, but for the rest of the rides that are going to go down, we are going to start looking at putting in some genuine theming that you would expect to see, like statues and little things just to keep you entertained while you're standing there twiddling your thumbs, or in these days, staring at your phones. And then I wanted to put down some bushing. Okay, some bushing around the ride itself, and then we'll go back and we'll start putting down these hedges. I only actually wanted to put it down along here, but I got a little bit carried away and decided, yeah, why not want to just carry on? Since I'm here, I'll just run it all the way along the path up to the other ride, and I still need to finish off that little corner there. I'm thinking maybe a little statue to go in there, and later on I come up with an idea for some statues that I kind of want to use, not extensively, but kind of plop them in the park here and there, just as a constant theme. Sadly, that there are no lumberjacks as options, but you know, we go with this other idea later on. So just hang tight and you'll see that suddenly come to life. I think it's actually at the end. Okay, so now, yeah, we've got this thing here. It's good. It's okay. It does the job. I like it, but I would like some variation around the park. So I decide I want to go with somewhat of a modern kind of feel to this now. So I'm looking for some kind of modern material, and I settle on the concrete. Initially I just do 4 concrete pillars, but then I saw that the tearing that happens when you overlay things like that, and I was like, no. And I had used these before with an idea that never actually finished, but this time I'm like, you know what, I'm determined to do this. So I'm going to put these down, and I'm going to see if I can create a little cubby, or a little weather hideout, or a little weather hideout for our guys, using these things. And then of course now comes the problem. I need to find something flat to form a roof. Easier said than done, but then I remember, of course, we've got the sci-fi pack that does have these nice flat pieces in it. So I was like, okay, well, let's go with that, and then we'll put it into place, and we'll see how it looks with them. It's a little too tall, I think, but we carry on. We've got a little light in there now, so that's good. And then I lower it, and that's where it kind of comes together. And I'm like, you know what? I like this. There's a reason for this massive pipe to be holding this roof up, because the concrete pillar is slightly lower. And then, of course, that's pretty much it. We need a little bit more detail on this thing. I can't remember if I actually find anything or not. I come back to this later on. It's good the way it is. So I move it out the way and I put that one back. And now it's time to start working on the station. Well, the theming. There is no theming. Still trying to struggle to come up with a name for this coaster. And it suddenly dawns on me later on. But right now, we need a station, right? We need somewhere that the train's going to come in and it's going to be kind of like shielded from the elements a little bit. So we've got these greeble panels from the sci-fi pack, and I'm like, interesting. So those could go on the outside facing out. All right, cool. And then we've got these panels. Oh, it broke down. Then we've got these panels here that, you know, they don't quite line up properly. And then I'm like, ooh, wait a minute. What if I use a wall and then I use the position snap to put the panels on the wall? Oh my God, look at that. And suddenly it becomes so much easier. And bingo, just like that, I've got the wall panel on the reverse side of the ride done. So I can hide the back side of the ride from the guests. And then we'll put the roof down. And I like these curved glass roofs. I wish they were a bit bigger. And I wish that the glass actually went up to the edge. If you notice, there's a tiny little gap between each one. And then, of course, we've got to come up with a way to support the center of them. So since there are no decent supports, I have to use this freestanding one. So that does the job there. And then, of course, this one's gridlocked, so I can't use that one. So now I'm like, God bless it, now I have to use these again, which is more vertices, more faces, and all that stuff. And then just kind of line them up and move them along. And they actually, it ends up looking rather good, I thought, at the end of it all. Yeah, it does the job. And then let's just fill in the station surround all the way around here. And we'll get under there as well. And we'll just make it look like the station's, you know, its entity. And since the station is so big, I think, well, maybe let's just put an access door on there and pretend that there's some shenanigans underneath it. And we'll connect the door up to the path at a later time. And then I realized that there's no supports on this concrete footpath here, and I'm buggered if I'm going to redo it. So I was like, you know what, let me see if I can actually create a decent surround for this concrete path here. And it actually worked. This is the first time I've come up with a random idea like this with these angles. And it's actually worked out rather well, I thought. It's surrounded, it's created this concrete support for the path pretty well. And then I'm like, well, yeah, let's carry this on here, and we'll make that look like that. Okay, cool. And that's that. We've got our station. Now we just need some a name for it and some theming. And now I've got that that metal station surround. That cubby for the guard, whatever you want to call him, it actually works there. So we go ahead and put that back. And now I've created these fences. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to install these safety fences around the roller coaster here. We do need to move the footpath, the maintenance path a little bit. We'll come back and we'll work on that another time. That's going to be probably its own. That's probably going to be its own video. Is just going to be me working on that access path. And then we've got to do it again on this side because I don't really want to move those stands, and I'm buggered if I'm creating a custom support on again, because that's just a nightmare. I'm really hoping that the devs that are watching some of the comments and see my comment about having a spline-based coaster support system. That would be really cool, just to put down the start and the end and have the game engine put the support in between the two for you automatically. Anyway, okay, so let's start thinking about the pathing and how we're going to get people around the park. So I'm like, well, I've got the paint tool. Let's just use the paint tool to pre-draw some pathing. And again, just freehanding it, it came out rather well. So we've got our plaza in the center there. We'll make it a bit bigger, and we'll just kind of adjust this hill here to make it fit a little better. And this didn't go quite as smoothly as I anticipated. I actually had to do some serious nonsense with the terrain tools. And then I'm like, well, let's start hooking, not start hooking the paths up, but create the edges so we don't have to run into those problems that we've had before. And then I didn't like the fact that the plaza was using the same path as the main entryway path. And I'm like, what about a fountain in the middle? I'm like, well, that's pretty nice, but there's that big piece of grass around it. So I'm like, well, let's save, and we'll see if we can get the path all the way up to the edge of the water. And this is where we start fiddling around a little bit. And it kind of works, but I've got to redo it again and dig the hole out a bit better, and then remember how I got the elevated path. Oh yes, that's right. There. Okay, like that. So now we've got our elevated path in there, and we are going to start thinking about the pool surround. So we need a nice decorative kind of wall that's been around for a bit, and I come up with the firehouse wall, and I think it looks rather nice, but of course it doesn't quite fit the path grid. I was like, so there's this tiny gap all the way around it. I was like, okay, all right, well, we'll figure that out later. So it needs a base. So we use these nice block bases here, and now we need the central part of the fountain. And of course, it's not going to let me do anything with the water in the way, so I have to get rid of the water. And I'm like, well, let's build up in the center here. And I'm like, well, what about a concrete support for our centerpiece on our fountain? I'm like, well, that's okay. So that's great. That's a good idea. That's kind of high though, so we adjust that. And I haven't really got a solid idea of how I want to do this just yet. So kind of playing around with the different ideas about how to do this, and then the statues pop in, and I'm like, we do have these nice statues. Well, what if I put them on a plinth? I'm like, well, what's the plinth going to stand on? And then this, boink, and then as soon as I drop this in, it all starts coming together. So we'll use her as the centerpiece, but you know, it's a little low down and not really doing anything, and all these plinths are just too small. And I'm like, well, what if I use 4 of them and put her on there, and then we'll just put these around the outside, which ends up looking quite good. And I'm like, well, let's get some fountains going in here. Maybe I can make them dance later. We'll put a controller in here, and we'll make them dance a little bit. But for now, let's just get them in. I'm like, well, maybe something else. And for a moment, I'm like, well, what if I can get the mermaids to blow some bubbles? But I couldn't get the nozzle to out of the mouth without the whole thing showing. So I was like, well, okay, maybe not. And now we've got to come up with a surround just to cover up that nasty edge. And so I end up going with this corner piece, which is in the studio pack, I believe. And of course, it's not going to auto snap, so I end up having to manually do the whole thing. Which, I mean, it wasn't too bad. It was just a matter of rotating, which, considering everything is 90 degrees, wasn't too much of a nightmare. It was fairly easy. It was just a little more time consuming than I had anticipated. But once I got it in, I was reasonably happy with it. The guests are probably going to cut through the edges of it a little bit, but yeah, I can live with that. It looks kind of nice, and it's about the same picture as the fountain. And then I realized that the mermaids are sticking out the bottom of the fountain a little bit, so that needs to be adjusted. And that's that. All right, now all we need is some shops, some more rides, and yeah, that's it. So, thanks for joining me again. It's much appreciated. Again, comments and constructive criticism, always welcome. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you feel like it. Bye-bye.